Hello again. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, and today's class is sending email with PHP. So on this PHP track so far, I've shown you how to create HTML forms, I've shown you how to create variables, and I've shown you how to write to files. Now I'm going to show you how to send email using the PHP programming language. Now today, when I show you how to send email, we are going to be sending email from an HTML form that we create. So I'm going to create a little form for you, show you how that's done. That form will then send the information to a PHP script. The PHP script will process that information and send that off as an email. So I'll show you the overall ideas about how this works, and then we'll do a demonstration to show you that this really does work in the real world. As with all of these PHP classes, remember, I'm trying to keep this very simple so that you don't feel overwhelmed and just give up. So I am just showing you the simple concept here with sending email with PHP. You can delve into this and get much more complicated, but for right now we are going to keep it simple. Also, I am going to be doing this by creating a form, sending the information from the form, turning that information into variables, and then using those variables to send the PHP email message. Realize those variables could come from other places though. You could hard code those variables. The variables could come from some type of database or some type of text file. So if you wanted to create a mass emailing script, you can use what I'm showing you today, plus add on a little bit, and it will still work essentially the same. So with that, if you give me a second, we will dive into this class, sending email with PHP. So I want to give you a brief overview of how all of this works. Now, as I explained to you in the first Introduction to PHP class, I would suggest that you go out and you get a shared hosted account with one of the standard web hosting providers, whether it's GoDaddy.com, oneandone.com, HostGator, one of those web hosting providers. Now, I know I've received a lot of feedback from you guys saying, why should you pay $5 a month when you can simply download XAMPP for your Windows computer or create your own LAMP server, your own web server at home, and it wouldn't cost you any money. Well, one of the reasons why I suggest you use a hosting plan at this point in time is because on a standard web server that you're going to build at home, the email services will not have been installed. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be using the mail function. The mail function within PHP takes the information you give it and then sends that to the email services that are installed on your server. If you have not installed email services on your server, then it won't work. Believe me when I say that installing email services, especially on a Linux server, is incredibly painful to do. It is utterly painful to do, especially the first time you're doing it, and especially if you do not know enough about Linux. So the nice thing about using a hosted plan is it will simply work for you. Everything that I show you today uses a standard GoDaddy hosted plan, and it works a-okay, and there are no issues. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be using the mail function. So the mail function is kind of like a small little program within the PHP programming language. So you call the mail function, you give it some variables, and then it specifically does something for you. That's what functions do. The mail function takes the variables and then will send an email based on the information that you give it. So when we call the mail function, all we're going to do is we're going to have a simple line of code, and we're just going to, all we're going to do is we're going to type out, and it's just going to say mail. So all you do is you do mail. Then you use parentheses. Then you give it the email address. Then you do comma, space. Then you're going to give it the subject, comma, space, and then you're going to give it the message. And then you close a parentheses, and of course you do a semicolon. This is the simplest way of using the mail function. So you just call the mail function and then you give it the parameters. parentheses, you give it the email address you're sending this email to, space, the subject of the email, space, the message, close parentheses, and then semicolon. You will notice here, or you may notice, that there's no place in here for from. So if you send email this way from PHP, this will work, and this is a standard way, but when the recipient receives the email, what they will see in the from line is simply the server's email address. So it'll be some god-awful long, nasty email address that doesn't really work if you don't give it the from. When we do the coding, I'll show you how you can plug from in here, and it's not that difficult. But the main thing to realize is if you're going to be using the mail function, this is all you have to do. Mail, parentheses, give it the email address it's going to, comma, space, the subject of the email, comma, space, the message, semicolon. Again, when we're going to be doing this in this class, I'm going to be doing this all with variables, and this won't be hard-coded in. This is to get you used to using variables and using values of variables, because again, one of the main problems psychologically for people when they're programming is they just can't get this variable thing. Like they want to write the person's actual email address here instead of calling the variable. But when you're programming, you need to get used to using variables and used to using the values of variables to make it work. So this is the basic overview. So the next part, I'm going to talk a little bit more about writing the code, and then we'll jump into demonstration. Again, with all these PHP classes, it's all very simple as long as you follow along. This is going to be the mail function that we're going to be using. So as we go along with this track, I'm going to be writing less and less code up on this whiteboard and doing more and more with the actual demonstration, just so you can see what's going on. Again, the code is going to get longer and more complicated. But for some specific concepts, I do still want to write this out on the whiteboard, just so you have an idea of what's going on before we get onto the computer. So we just talked about the mail function. So you use the mail function, you call the variables, and then you're able to send the email. So you just give it the email address it's going to, the subject, and the message, close parentheses, semicolon, and that's it. You will see how easy it is to do when we go onto the computer. The next thing that we're going to be learning about when we code today is the text area box for when you create forms. So before, when I created forms for the HTML forms, you know, we did text boxes and we did radio buttons and we did the option select, the drop down thing. Well, there are other ways you can input data into HTML forms. One of the ways is text area. Basically, all text area is a text area box. This means you can get a square or rectangular box that you can insert text, and you can put multiple lines of information. So if you go to a form and you see one of those big squares where you can type out a whole essay if you want to, that uses a text area. In order to create a text area on your HTML form, it's a little different than what else I've shown you, but it's not too hard. All you're going to do is you're going to do a bracket, as we've done before, and then we're going to say text area. So this creates a text area tag. Then what we're going to say is the size of the text area. So we're going to do rows, then we're going to say equal, double quotation marks, and then we give it a number. Let's say 20. And then we say columns, C-O-L-S equals, and then we give it another number, let's say 20 again. So it's rows equals, open quotation marks, 20, close quotation marks, columns equals, open quotation marks, 20, close quotation marks. This says what is the width and what is the height of this text box. Then we have to give it a name, because as we talked about before with forms in PHP, we have to be able to tell the PHP code what this information is so it can turn it into a variable. So today we're just going to do equals message, because this is going to be the message box. Close double quotation marks, and then close bracket. Now with this is not all. If you want to put default information into the text area box, you can then write it after this if you want. But regardless, you then have to close the text area box. So then you do another bracket, / text area, and then close the bracket. So this is the important thing to remember with text area boxes is you actually have to close the text area box. This is not like the input type that we've done before. So all a text area is it's that square where you put multiple lines of information in. In order to create it, bracket text area, space, rows equals whatever, columns equals whatever, the name, remember that's what's used to pass the information to the PHP script. Then if you want to put default text you can, but the main thing is you have to close the text area. If you don't do that, you're going to run into problems. So the mail function and the text area box are the new concepts that you're going to have to understand. You should already understand how to create variables. You should already understand how to create an HTML form, and you should already understand how to pass information from an HTML form to a PHP script. If you don't understand that, you're going to have to go back and watch those classes again to make sure you do understand that. But as long as you understand that, what I'm going to show you now should be pretty simple as I try to make all of this. So with that, let's go onto the computer and I'll show you how to create the form to send an email to somebody, and I'll show you how to create that PHP script that will actually send the email to whoever you want to send the email to. So here we are back at my Windows 7 computer, and as you can see I have Notepad++ already open. I've also created the two files that we are going to be using. So we have email_form.php. This will be the actual form where the user inputs information. It will then pass that information to email_script.php, and this is where PHP will take that information, turn it into an email, and send the email. So if we go back to email_form.php, you will see that I have already written this code. Now when I'm writing new code that you've never seen before in this track, I will actually write it all out. You guys have already seen how to create forms in HTML, so I'm just not going to waste a lot of time retyping all of this code. I already have this created. So as you can see, we have the basic HTML, we have the head, we have the body, and then we have the form. So this is where the form is opened, and we say what the action is, and the action is to send all of this information to the email_script.php script. So this information will be sent here, and the method equals post. We've talked about post before. There's post and get. For now, just always do post. Now here we will be asking what email address are we sending this message to. So first we have to do the normal, we have to tell the user what we want. So we open the paragraph, we say email address, and then we create the text box for the email address. So it's input type equals text, the name equals email, and remember this name here is what the PHP script will use to turn this information into a variable, and the size of the text box is simply 30 characters. We then close the paragraph, so this puts it on one line. We then ask what is the subject. So what is the subject of this email? So we open a paragraph again, we ask the user what the subject is, and then we have another text box here. Input type equals text, name equals subject. This is what PHP will use to create the variable. Size again equals 30. Then we are going to ask for the message. What message do you want sent? Now I am using another type of input that you can use in HTML forms. This is text area. It is very simple. So all we're going to do is this is going to create one of those squares, one of those blocks where you can insert multiple lines of text into an HTML form. So first we open a paragraph, ask what the message is, and close the paragraph. Then we open a paragraph again, and this is the tag. This is what you do to create a text area. So you do bracket, text area, all one word. Then you do space, rows. How many rows do you want this text box to be? I just put it equal to 10. How many columns do you want this text box to be? I had it equal to 20. Now what you decide here is totally up to you. Basically, this is what is the height of the text area and what is the width. So you can just play around with this and figure out whatever makes it look pretty for you. And then again, with all the information that we're passing, we have to give it a name so that the PHP script knows what it is, so it can turn it into a variable. And so this is message. So this is the message that will be sent. Now here, it closes with an angle bracket. You can put text in here as a default text for the text area, but I would say with this email, not to worry about it. You simply close the text area with a bracket / text area. So this closes that with a tag, and then you close the paragraph. Then all you do is put another input type, and this is the submit button. So this just creates the submit button down here. We close the body, we close the HTML. So again, I don't want to write all this out, but just so you guys remember what's going on, the big thing here is remember the action is it's going to send all this information to the email script to be processed. And then the new thing that you have learned is this text area. So text area is the box, the square. So I just made it rows equals 10, columns equals 20. Depends on what you want to do. Again, the name, you always have to name it, is message. Then you do angle bracket / and then you close text area. So if you're going to do a text area, just take a look at this line of code right here and basically copy it. What this will do is this will then create the form you see here. So as you can see, this is up on elithecomputerguy.com /test email_form.php. This asks for the email address, gives a text box, asks for a subject, text box, and then a message. Now again, remember, I'm doing this very simple and I'm not spending a lot of time in formatting. If you want to use CSS and HTML to make this all look pretty, you can make this look a whole lot prettier than it is now. So now that we've created the form, we have to create the script we are going to be passing all this information to. So since this is new, I will type this out. So we'll do angle bracket $PHP. Again, this opens the PHP script. Then with me, just because I forget things, I'm going to do angle bracket a few spaces down so that I don't forget to close the PHP script. Remember, with PHP, you've always got to open, you've always got to close. Now, with this function, this mail function that will send the email, you can give it specific information. You don't necessarily have to give it variables, but I want you to get used to using variables. It's easier in life with PHP if you get used to using variables, so all of the information we are going to pass to the script will be variables. So I do space, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the from. So who is this email from? This is who will show up in the from line. So I'm going to do $from to create the variable, and we were going to set it to test@elithecomputerguy.com. So sadly, as we talk about hacking and phishing attacks and all that, you really can actually put anything you want here. I don't have any special authority to use test@elithecomputerguy.com. I could do admin@paypal.com if I wanted to. This is simply text that would be put into the email. So put whatever you want this email, whoever you want this email to be from there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set the email address we're sending this email to. So remember, in this form right here, we're asking for the email address where this email will be sent. So now we will set that variable. So we'll create it, equal, and then again we do $_. We're receiving this information from the form. And so we have now created and set that variable. We've created the variable email, and we have set it to what is posted from the form. We do the same for subject. And now remember, when you're doing all this typing, always make sure to put in any semicolons. If you don't put in a semicolon, things go all wacky. Also make sure to close the quotation marks. Open quotation marks, close quotation marks. Open quotation marks, close quotation marks. And make sure you use that semicolon. And now we just finish with the final variable. We'll set that, create that, and set it to what the message is. So now we have created the variable from to be this. We have hard coded in here. So this right now for this script will always be test@elithecomputerguy.com. Then what is dynamic is the email address of who we're sending it to, the subject, and the message. This will all come from the form we were just looking at. Now all we do with this mail function is it's really simple. We simply call the mail function, we open parentheses, then the first thing we do is we give it the email address that we're sending this email to. So we will give it the variable of $email, and then this, when the PHP script runs, will drop in the value of that variable. We then do $subject. So right here you do the variable for email address, comma, space, the subject, comma, space, and then the message. And this is actually all you need in order to send the email, if we're not going to be very sophisticated. So simply to send an email out of PHP, all you need is to call the mail function, do parentheses, give it the email address, comma, space, the subject, comma, space, the message, and now it will be sent. But it won't say who it's from. Basically, when somebody receives it, they'll kind of just get like a gobbledygook on the from. They'll be told what server it was sent from, which really isn't useful for anybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back in here and we are going to also add the from. So we do comma, then we do double quotation marks from, colon, close double quotation marks, and now we have to concatenate. So by doing this from, we are then going to use period and then add our variable from. So what this does is this is the email address we're sending to, this is the subject of the email, this is the message of the email, and then here we're giving it who this email is from. So double quotation marks from, colon, close double quotation marks, period, which concatenates, adds this all together, so with that from variable, and now this is a full email that will get sent. Now if this runs as it is, the user won't get any kind of confirmation that the email has been sent. So this script will run perfectly now. This is all you need in order to run this script. But the user will not receive any verification that it's run. So they may not, it's not good. You always want to give the user some kind of verification. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call print, and then I am just simply going to create a verification for the user. So I'm just going to say your message has been sent, and then I'm just going to use simple HTML coding. So I'm going to do a break, and then I'll put an email. So basically this is going to say your message has been sent, next line email, next line subject, next line message, and then close a paragraph. So this is all very simple. All I've done here is call print, and I'm just going to print out on the screen after the mail has run, after the mail function has run, it's going to say your message has been sent, and it'll say the email address, next line subject, next line message. And all this is this doesn't have to be done, but it gives your user verification that something in fact has actually happened. So now I've saved that, and now I'm going to upload this to my server. And now we've got to make sure the other form is uploaded so that everything's good. And then we will go here and we will run this script. So the email address we were sending this to will be eli@elithecomputerguy.com. The subject, this is from the PHP class. This is a message from the PHP class. Isn't this fun? So now it's going to send to eli@elithecomputerguy.com with a subject of this is from the PHP class with the message of isn't this fun, and I hit submit. And now it says, see, this is where you want to give the user some accountability for what's happened. You want to show them that the script has actually run, because if you hit that submit button and then the next thing you see is simply a blank screen, well, that's not going to be very good. You're also going to notice in here that by the isn't this fun, by this single quotation mark. It is done a backslash. This is done to protect the PHP code. We will go into how to fix this in a different class. Again, with all of these classes, I want to keep this about as simple as possible, again, so you guys don't get frustrated. If you see this isn't right here, if you see this when you do your PHP code, this is normal, and I'll teach you how to fix that later. But now that I've been talking for you for a minute, my email has come in, and if we go to my email box, you can see this is my actual Outlook, and I have received test at EliTheComputerGuy.com has sent me this message. So I can simply open it up. And, we can see from test at EliTheComputerGuy.com to Eli at EliTheComputerGuy.com. Subject, this is from the PHP class, and message, this is a message from PHP. So that is all there is to it. So you have seen this actually works. Now the main thing, before we go out to the real world, as I'll keep hammering you on, is that the reason I suggest you guys use a GoDaddy account or a standard web hosting account is they already have the email service and all of that built into their servers. Believe me when I say setting up Linux email services is evil. Evil, 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 evil. So a lot of people I know, there's been a lot of suggestion that I should just tell you guys to set up your own XAMPP servers or your own LAMP servers in your house. And with your LAMP servers, that will run the HTML and the web services and the PHP, but it will not run automatically this email service. And email is one of the great functions of PHP. So if you're going to learn PHP, you might as well learn how to use the email. And so that's why I say use these GoDaddy accounts or one-in-one, some standard hosting provider, because this will already be set up for you. It will already work. If you try to set up email services on your own, it can just be evil. And to also show you that if you use their hosting accounts, your emails will actually go through and won't simply get blocked by spam filters. So that's all there is to it. Again, this is the HTML form. The new thing I showed you is this text area. This is where you create the box. You just do rows equals 10, columns equals 20, or whatever you want. You still have to name it. That's within its own tag, and then you close the tag with bracket / text area, and that's all you have to do with the text area. Again, with the email script, I hard-coded this from in there, but you can put anything you want. You can even have that passed from the form if you want to put in a text area for it. We turned all of the information from the form into variables, and then we used the variables within this mail function. So you do mail parentheses, then you give the email address, comma, space the subject, comma, space the message, comma. The only slightly complicated thing about this is then you do double quotation marks, you type in from, colon, close the double quotation marks, then you concatenate, do a period, and then do the from variable, close parentheses, again, always, 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 semicolon. Then this is just simple, what I've shown you how to do before. You just print out a message, and again, this is simply giving the user verification that something happened. So that's really all there is, just to very simply send emails. You can do this for any number of reasons, and yeah, with that, let's go back out to the real world and have some final thoughts. So that's all there is to sending email with PHP. So with this, we used a form. We took information in from the user on the form. We turned that information into variables, and then we used the mail function to send an email to myself. But you could send an email to whoever you want to. Again, this is why I suggest you use a hosted shared plan, because for $5 a month, all of this will work, and you don't have to worry about it. If you try to set up your own email server at home, there's just a whole ton of problems that you can run into. And again, you know, as I say, for $5 a month, why worry about it, especially at this point in your career? So I showed you how to do the mail function, I showed you how to give it variables, and I showed you how to send the email. And today I also showed you how to create the text area box. That's the text box where basically you can put multiple lines of information. Now, as I showed you in this class, all the information I passed to the email script came from variables. So we created variables, We assign values to the variables, and then we use those variables in the actual function. I did that for a specific reason, because in the future, you will no longer be pulling information simply from forms, but you will be able to pull information from files or from databases. So again, if you wanted to create a mass emailing application, using a script, you could call to a database, pull out somebody's name and email address, put that in, combine it with a subject and message, and basically be able to blast out emails to 1,000, 2,000, or 100,000 people by using the variables. So the variables would be assigned, the email would be sent out, the variable would be reused for somebody else's email address. Again, that will get more complicated, but that is the idea here. I want you to start getting used to variables, because when you're used to using variables in PHP, then when we come and we do new additional things, it will seem pretty easy. Again, the one quirk that I did show you with sending this email is you did notice that slash for the isn't when I wrote the email. We will talk about that in the future, but right now I don't want you to worry about it, so don't worry about it. If you send an email, there might be a few extra characters, but right at this second, that's no big deal. So as you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy. This class was sending email with PHP, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.